good evening and welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us as we continue our chronological read through of Scripture. Actually, I suppose for most of you, it's going to be good morning and welcome. Just the same, today we're going to complete the second sermon of Moses recorded in Deuteronomy. If you recall, there were 3 sermons that Moses recorded in Deuteronomy. And we're going to continue to read these various commands that Moses was giving to the children of Israel as they anticipate entering the land of the promise. So we begin with chapter 24 today. It talks about divorce, it talks about newlyweds, it talks about justice, and it talks about generosity. We begin with some words about divorce. If you recall, but the Pharisees of Jesus' day had asked Jesus a question that basically, why did Moses command divorce? Well, Moses never commanded divorce. That wasn't what happened at all. You'll read today that he allows it here, but he in no way commanded divorce. Moses also makes it clear that there are no do-overs. Once a woman has been remarried, you divorce a woman, she remarries, there's no do-overs. Basically, divorce is allowed, but it's not to be taken lightly. He moves on then to newlyweds. Newlywed men are not to participate in the army, the army of their day, for a year, but they're to stay home and to attend to their wife. We move on to other things. One Israelite could not take a pledge of a mill or an upper millstone, and because in doing such a way they would take away a person's livelihood. If you think about a miller, someone that's grinding the grain, if you take their mill as pledge, or if you take the upper grindstone, the one that turns, as pledge, well, you're taking away somebody's ability to make a living, so they can't do that. Kidnapping of a fellow Israelite is punishable by death. Moses then begins a series of commands that ensure that everyone is treated with respect, actually all the way down to the ox. All of Israel is to obey the instructions of the priests. All of Israel is to respect those to whom they're making a loan. You conduct your business outside of the house. In other words, you don't do that inside the house where the whole family can hear. You do it outside the house. If the person that you are taking a pledge from needs that pledge to sleep safely, for example, if it's his tunic, you're supposed to return it to him each night. You're supposed to pay the wages to your employees the day that they're earned, or to the people that are working for you the day that they are earned. You're not supposed to make them wait. We read yesterday about people being allowed to eat from a vineyard or a field when they needed at the time. Well, actually, they could eat however much they needed at the time. They couldn't carry things away, but they could eat what they needed at the time. Now all Israel is told to leave the gleanings of the field for those in need. In other words, don't strip the land bare when you harvest it. If you drop something, leave it dropped. Leave a little bit at the edge of the field, and so on. And that was there to be left there for the needy and the traveler. Maybe you remember Ruth, who was gathering from those gleanings for her and her mother Naomi. Punishment is to be appropriate but restrained. And finally, even the ox that's trampling the grain is not to be muzzled but allowed to eat of what it is working on. Clearly, this idea can be read in a much broader context, such that everyone is to be cared for while they're doing work for you, whatever the task, so that no one lacks provision, because God is providing abundantly for all. Moses then moves on to speak of the duty of a brother-in-law to take the wife of his brother if they have not had an heir, and to give her one to carry on his brother's name. You'll notice that this is also more than just a gentle suggestion. If you read the punishment that's to be meted out on one who refuses to do so, you'll understand that this is absolutely expected. Similarly, harsh punishment awaits the woman who destroys the ability of a man to produce children. See, children are a blessing from God. They are, period. But especially in the society, the Israelite society of the time, they're a tremendous blessing from God. It's through a child, namely Jesus Christ, that man will receive redemption. So the creation of a child is a serious matter it should not be trifled with. It could not be trifled with. Moses goes on, just weights and just measures are to be used for every transaction. Then Moses changes subject matter and he commands Israel to wipe out even the memory of Amalek because they preyed, actually the Amalekites, because they preyed on the weak and the weary at the rear of Israel's group, plundering and killing them. This was early on in their journey. Moses gives instructions for presenting the first fruits to God, acknowledging that God has what God has done for them. He also gives instructions for the presentation of special tithes and offerings. And then finally, in this great variety of things that Moses is talking about, he concludes his sermon with an exhortation to obey these commands and also with God's promise that they, the children of Israel, are God's treasured possession. As always, I pray that your reading today is beneficial to you, that you will learn, that you will grow, that maybe you'll see some things that help you to understand what we read in the New Testament even better. I look forward to meeting with you again tomorrow.